we are in the beautiful Sanremo, first day of testing with EXT, where effectively we're going to be digging into the detail. I think we're going to be trying to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty, obviously try and learn as much as we can from the EXT guys. The rider we're testing with will only be Joe today, as we don't have the full team being in New Zealand, but the information we'll be using will be filtered to the team so they can deliver their tests and get ready to race.
We have to check the settings, the hydraulic adjuster. Now we have to fix a little leakage that we have here. So before testing it's better to have a completely new damper to make sure that everything is okay.
Should we go? Yes. Ready to go? Thank you very much, boys. Appreciate it. Very firm, very solid platform.
Okay.
So not very forgiving.
Okay.
Whereas yesterday we had it too soft. So when I'd hit like small to medium bumps, it would use too much of the travel.
And now it's different.
And then we went up pressure, and so more similar to yesterday when we finished. Just feels like it's maybe sitting up a little bit too much.
And
but
the shocks?
Shock good, loads of support. I always run the rear quite stiff compared to most people.
Okay.
I have a lot of leverage over the rear axle, so actually compared to most people the suspension's softer with the same setup.
Yes.
But equally from a preference of suspension, I run it firmer as well, so I like a really solid platform.
2 volume spacer on the negative and 2 on the plus plus. Maybe we can change the negative volume spacer. When you say it doesn't forgive you in some situation, maybe if you have more volume on negative, it's better in this situation.
Yesterday, when the pressure was at 130, on sort of looser, flatter corners where there's not really any harsh impacts, the fork sat really nice, and the grip and cornering was amazing. But then as soon as we went into rough corners or rough sections, there was just no support. So potentially finding a way to have it sitting on the ground really nicely with great traction, but having the support would be great.
This is the plus plus chamber.
Okay.
And this is the negative chamber. So this is the negative volume reducer.
Okay.
Because the bike's now upside down, the upside down fork is not upside down. So it's like working on a normal fork. Yeah, it's definitely quite different. There's lots of little tricky parts to these forks just because we're not used to it. But yeah, once we do it a couple of times, I think it should be quite simple. Hopefully Joe doesn't ask me to do it on the start line. That could be difficult.
Have a good one. Fuck me, the front end's soft. That was not a small change.
No?
That made a huge difference. At the start, I was like, this is definitely too soft. Like, I can't ride this. But then when I start to trust it and find out that it had support with it, I was like, actually, maybe there's something to this. One, so much more comfortable. Front end sitting on the floor, tracking, unbelievable. So it can always turn, can always brake, and it feels much calmer on the body. It does ramp up really well, but it feels like it does just use up the start of the travel a little bit too fast. There is huge potential in whatever you just did. It made the fork feel incredible, although it's not done. Like you'd want to find the right balance.
Yes.
But there were some major improvements. What did you do? You kept the pressure the same?
Same
Or?
pressure, but we changed the volume of the negative chamber. So you have you have more volume on the negative. The idea is to have a spring ratio lighter on the first part of the stroke.
Yeah.
And then you have
The same progression?
yes.
Or not? I can't tell you if the change in geo of the bike is better or worse. For now it's just different and I don't trust it because it's different.
Yes.
And we'd have to do like say 3 runs like this, 3 runs the other way to really know what was the better position for me.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's a little bit scary. If we could have that fork performance held with the geo I had before, fantastic. So maybe, as you say, it's sitting dynamically deeper. You could maybe rake the fork out a little bit.
Yes.
That would raise the front end and give us an equal head angle, dynamic head angle. I mean, you know, there's a lot to play with, but there's legs in that. It was good.
Okay. Good.
But in an ideal world, you'd have a swap out so that when it's wet or it's like an off-camber track that's quite slippy, you'd have exactly this. Then when it's a dry Val de Sol or a dry here, where grip's not the issue, but like stability and confidence to go flat out through rough stuff, then you'd swap out for something stiffer. So you could almost, if it rains, 10 minutes before a run, you go like the grippy, compliant setup, and if it's dry, you run the stiffer setup. But it is unreal, the setup I'm so happy with. I'm like looking for the small percentages.
Back at the top of the track, sore paw, but me and Joe are just going to do a track walk. Mainly just trying to, obviously Joe's not racing at all, but because we try when we're testing to put Joe and all the team against the clock, like we see that as the most important data point. So knowing the track's going to really help, especially for Joe. Like there's almost 2 Joes, if I'm perfectly honest. You know, Joe that really knows what's underneath his wheels, and the pace he goes is, you know, some of the fastest in the world. And then the Joe when he's not confident, he definitely, you know, he won't let it go, kind of thing. He won't like totally release control, or you know, getting a bit of an understanding what's underneath the wheels, tidy up his lines, and then we can have a consistent day to help the data when it comes to knowing if the suspension changes are working.
It's a little chilly, but hands are getting warmed up in the pockets while the EXT guys are working on the bike, which is quite weird. But we've just put some data acquisition on the bike, and it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. But yeah, this should allow us to have a really good in-depth look at what the numbers are actually saying and what the bike's doing, and see if Joe's feedback makes sense as well.
I'm setting the telemetry for using it today. I will take back to the factory to have a look on it and see if the bike works well and if the balancing of the bike is good.
It's more important to see the data for reasons, not necessarily to back up what you're thinking, but sometimes I'm feeling a certain thing, but I don't know where it's coming from. It's like you use what you feel,
with some hard maths that show you data, and then you can make a good decision sooner rather than having to try 5 things to find the right thing. You can normally try 1 or 2 things to find the right thing with both sets of knowledge. What we're doing on the fork now is playing with a few different ways to have the bike sitting beautifully, great traction, great braking, great comfort, great feel, but also having something that's really supportive. And there's, as I said yesterday, there's multiple ways we can find that, whether it's air pressure, whether it's with the ramp up, whether it's with compression. So now we're going to try it, see what we can learn from making the low speed compression firmer and seeing how that affects the bike and the feel. And so that's going to be probably I'd say the first half of this day is going to be all playing with that, going really firm on the low speed, coming really soft on the low speed, and seeing how it affects each bit of the track and my feedback, and also the data on the data acquisitions.
I'm downloading the data and then we can see something. 507, here we are really close.
Oh wow, okay.
Pressure. Maybe we can adjust a little bit the rebound.
Yeah.
I think it maybe it's slower on the shocks.
Okay, low speeds, slow.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I think we are really in a good point.
Okay.
The velocities are not bad because we are really close. The front and the rear are the same.
It looks like the balance of the bike's really good in terms of compression and how the front and rear axles are moving together, but it seems like maybe the rebound on the rear is just a little bit slow on the low speed, so I think we'll try that pretty soon. It's super useful to see because like there's a few questions we have, but it just really helps us get closer to the answer, or gives us the knowledge we need to make the correct change to get the feeling we all want. So I want to just go and repeat the exact same run with the exact same setup before we make any more changes, just to be a little bit more sure on what we're saying and feeling. That was the best the bike has ever been, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I just said to Gianmarco, like, fair play for suggesting and noticing the rebound, because I think that was the perfect next step. It felt very good.
Really good. Really happy.
I got to the point where I'm loving this so much, I want to keep experiencing this. But at the same time, I know I need to learn. But as a setup, if we had to go and race, fucking hell, this would be like pretty sick. For here, at least. So we should remember this base as like the best we've ever had it, and then try and learn now more.
Well, I think we might have sufficiently worn Joan out on this beast of a track. It's absolutely, I mean, you're basically just riding on one big rock coming down that thing, short of a couple of loose turns in the middle. Yeah, we have to say a massive thanks to EXT, because the amount of information we've taken from them this week has been just like, yeah, more than we could ever imagine, really. If we've got Joe's bike in a brilliant place, and I think Joe's riding the best I've seen him ride for a few years now, and that's compliment to the setup that we've managed to get from EXT. John can now take this away, and we can use this with the other riders, like both things that they can go and test, as well as the just the knowledge for the other mechanics, which is, yeah, super useful and is going to give us a head start. The other thing I think that's been super important this week has been the relationship side of things. I think we really know how EXT work now. We know why their equipment operates like it does, in the sort of high quality that it does. And they know how we work. They know how we dig into the detail. You know, we get down dirty with the detail and try and figure it out. So I think the relationship we formed is really good. And I'm really excited to see how that now develops through the rest of the season, through the races, and see if we can get a few podiums out of these guys.